The Vero Plus, maybe a little bit softer, a touch more bounce, but I think I prefer the geometry in this shoe. And just a couple runs done and dusted in this shoe. Now this is the QIAODAN LEILI 1.0, and these are my first impressions. But before we get into it, and if you guys haven't done so already and you want to support the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And before we get into specs, I need to apologise if I'm pronouncing the name of this company and the shoe wrong. I think it's QIAODAN, I think it's pronounced LEILI, and it's the 1.0. I do know in some other parts of the world they do call this shoe the TG1. But if you haven't heard of QIAODAN, it is a Chinese sports company, and they've got that symbol that's really familiar to the Jordan logo, so that maybe that might ring a bell for you. But into the shoe, so certainly in that max cushion category, daily trainer. You're going to be able to pick it up in Australia. So I picked this one up for under 130 Australian dollars, and I think that equates to about 85 in the US. And I got this one through AliExpress, and I think that is that website's available pretty much worldwide. Now in the weight for such a big shoe as well, pretty good package here. So 251 grams or 8.9 ounces. Now that's in my size. This is a US 8 or a Euro 41. In the stack, pretty big as well, 42 in the rear, 35 in the front, and that's going to give us a 7mm drop. And in the upper, so the material that they're using here is a jacquard mesh. Now the mesh itself kind of reminds me of what they do use in some of the Asics shoes. There's a few little breathing holes through the toe box, but overall I think the jacquard mesh breathing could be a little bit better. Solid heel counter at the back, plush amount of padding around the heel collar, a medium padded tongue. The tongue is gusseted, but the tongue is also meshed all the way down, which I think is probably one of the best features on the upper. Now with our lacing system, so they've got a combination of like these lace loops where the laces weave through, and also some eyelets up the top where you can do the runner's knot. Now with the laces, interesting here, I haven't seen this before, they're quite thin, standard as they weave through the lacing system, but then as you go to lace up, they've got these little bulbs all the way up, so they go fat, then they go thin. So I haven't seen that before, but I must say it was very effective lacing up. Do a great job cinching the foot down through the midfoot. No heel slippage at the back, but I did get a little bit of some irritation with some of this padding on one of my Achilles, like not much, I'm saying very minimal. And in the fit, well, this is a bigger fit, so you need to come down half size, and that is what they recommend on the websites as well. So I'm usually a Euro 42 or a US 8.5. I ordered the Euro 41 or the US 8, and it fits me like a US half size up would. But yeah, good amount of volume through the toe box. The toe box is quite wide and accommodating as well. Build quality looks excellent, especially for a shoe that costs only $130. Stepping comfort's pretty good as well. And in the outsole, so they are using their CPU rubber here. So I really like how it's segmented off. It's just not one big piece over the entirety of the shoe. Plenty of exposed foam through the bottom there, just letting the midsole splay. Now the CPU rubber itself, it's quite soft. It does conform with the midsole foam itself, so it's not harsh, not taking anything away from the ride. I've only got a chance to run in this shoe in the dry conditions, but I must say it felt really tacky. And durability, it's obviously way too early for me to tell. And in the midsole, so the foam that they're using here is what they call their Q Kung Fu Pro foam. Now, that has to be the coolest name for a midsole foam that I think's on the market, but it is a supercritical foam, PEBA infused as well. To the look and to the touch, it really reminds me of the foam they use in the Hoka Max 6. So no plate or anything in the shoe. Rigidity wise, it's got some flex. That's surprisingly how much that is flexing. Twist test, well, it is. It's got a bit of play there left and right as well. Again, quite surprised. Geometry department, we've got a 4-foot rocker here, very evident on the run. I'm going to say it's pretty aggressive. So not super late, not super early. And we've got some noticeable toe spring as well. So just standing around in the shoe and running in the shoe. What is that? Well, that's just when you're standing around in the shoe, you can feel your toes aren't flat. Your toes are actually pointing a little bit up in the air when you're walking around in the shoe, so that's super noticeable. I also feel that in the Saucony Endorphin Elite 2 as well. And in the ride, well, the first word that's coming to mind here is efficient. And I don't think it's got to do with the Kung Fu Pro foam. I think it's got to do with the geometry, even though I do like this foam. So this PEBA infused foam, so you would probably think it's going to be really soft and bouncy. Well, it's not that. It is soft, it's got a little bit of sink, but it feels quite dense and solid, but it's not overly firm in any way. So it certainly feels a lot softer through the heel as you're coming through, and then as you're transitioning onto the forefoot, it does feel like it firms up, and it gets a little bit poppy and responsive off toe off, but the real winner here is this geometry. So this aggressive rocker really just, yeah, it just makes you tick the legs over quite easily, and as for me, as I said, it feels really efficient because again, it's not overly soft, not overly squishy, not overly bouncy, so we're not wasting energy bouncing up and down or sinking through the foam. It's just got a little bit of sink straight onto the rocker and away we go. So really nice clean ride. It's surprisingly stable as well, so really stable. And that surprised me when I done the twist test and how flexible the shoe is. It doesn't feel like it would feel that stable, but yeah, it certainly does feel stable. Not overly stable, it doesn't feel like it's overcorrecting, but yeah, certainly a really safe shoe as well. What I'm liking so far, certainly number one, the price. Absolutely amazing price point, especially when all the mainstream brands are just pushing their prices up and up and up. There's Chinese companies out there where we can get a remarkable deal and pretty much performs at the same level. Also, I like the weight, so it's a max cushion shoe. It's only weighing 250 grams. Really enjoying that. And the big winner, as I've mentioned before, I absolutely love the geometry of this shoe. And dislikes, it's probably just a sizing issue, and that's probably from the Chinese companies in general. I know if you do enough reading or you do a little bit of research, you can pretty much dial in your size, but if you don't do that and you order your true to size, it's just going to be a hassle when the shoe's going to be too big and you have to send it back. So just do a little bit of research, but it'd just be good if everything was just aligned. And just wrapping up my first impressions here, well, I must say pleasantly surprised, and a big shout out and a thank you to the viewer out there that did suggest that I need to test and try these out. I think after we were talking about the Vomero Plus, but yeah, I can see some similarities in these two shoes, especially with the ride. The Vomero Plus maybe a little bit softer, a touch more bounce, but I think I prefer the geometry in this shoe. But this shoe to me, it just screams out long run, so long run shoe. Interested to see how this Kung Fu Pro Foam holds up on those big runs, so those 2-3 hour runs, and obviously if it's going to soften up just a little bit, or it's going to die, or if it's going to give more bounce, I'm not too sure. So interesting to see there, but obviously I'll keep testing this shoe out and I'll report in the full review, because I'll guarantee this one will get to a full review quite easily. But anyway guys, that's it from me. Any questions you've got with this shoe, how it relates to anything else, hit me up in the comments. Thanks for watching. Make sure you give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time.